Hi, everyone, and welcome to FM RedHawks Weekly. I am transported in from the Bison blog to fill in for Jody Norstead this week. I'm Dom Izzo, along with the one and only Fargo Big E, Eric Peterson. I feel just honored to be here with you today to fill in.
Well, you're going to have to brush up on your French before this version of the RedHawks blog. But it's always good to have in studio, Dom. I'm really excited.
I appreciate that. Trois Rivers, the Aigle. That's where the Hawks have played the last two nights. They'll wrap up the series there as they are on a 10-game road swing through the Can-Am League. This is something they did last year where they played a team from Rockland. How did this all come about? Is this just a matter of just filling out games and just to change up the schedule a little bit?
The American Association has 13 teams. The Can-Am League has 5 teams. Okay. So you don't want to sit a team down for an entire series. Right. So to make it work, you're going to have an interleague series going on at all times. Like you said, Rockland came here last year, so this year it's the RedHawks' turn to go out east. And it was interesting. I talked to Doug Simonik on Sunday, the end of their last homestand, and they had to be at the stadium at 3:45 a.m., be to the airport by 5:45 a.m., fly to Chicago, fly to Montreal, and then bus trip, into, the English translation is Three Rivers, Three Rivers, the Eagles, but you can go by the French stuff because I know you're really good at French.
Just flows off the tongue.
But that was, something different that they haven't done. They've had a lot of bus trips, and I'm sure a lot of, like, crazy 10-hour, 15-hour overnight bus trips, but some planes, trains, automobiles to get here this time.
Well, just to start the season, they went all the way to Texas, and that was a long bus ride here. So it's 10 games, 3 in Quebec. Then they head to New Jersey for that. They'll play at New Jersey against the Jackals, and then Newark against the Bears. And this is a trip where Doug Simonik told both Jody and yourself on Sunday they want to get healthy on this trip. No 5-5, 6-4 probably doesn't cut it. They want to go 7-3 on this trip. So far, they're 1-1 so far.
Yeah, I mean, they started out with, it's that rough start. They're 6 games below 500 right away at 2-8. Then they make that great run to get above 500, I think 3 games at one point. Now, since then, it's kind of been treading water, and part of it's they're in a tough division. I mean, other than Winnipeg, which they've had great success against, they're 6-0 against the Gold Eyes, but, you got St. Paul in there. Sioux Falls has played better. I mean, Gary came up here and, it was kind of a thorn in their side. Yeah. So, I mean, they're still kind of tweaking the roster. Their starting pitching has been good through Alex Caldera, Jake Labor, and Taylor Stanton. But beyond that, Paul Burnside, who was one of their top 5 pitcher in the league last year, has had some trouble with his back. It's tightened up 3 or 4 innings into games. Ethan Opsahl is tried as their 5th starter. But, he had some issues, I think, where something was tightening up, and he wasn't able to go past 4 or 5 innings. So they brought in a rookie, Brian Ernst from East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and he looked good in his first start, but that's one start. So I think moving forward, trying to build depth in that rotation is going to be key for them.
Let's go back. You mentioned the series with Gary this past weekend where the Hawks had chances basically to win 2 games that they ended up losing, especially on Sunday's game, which was ridiculous, where they got up 8-0, and then Gary come back and win it 14-11. Is this a lost weekend in your eyes that they had a chance to win all 3 games and only get 1?
I don't know about loss, but it was a good opportunity, and their bullpen had been really solid. It was kind of a weird game. They're up 9-3 through 6, and their bullpen had been a strength to that point, but they just, I guess it's going to happen, where a bullpen's just going to have an off night, and it's just, I guess, unfortunate for them that it happened in the game where he had a 9-3 lead, and it was 11-11, and you think they might be able to stabilize it, and then Gary scores more runs again there in the 9th and gets the win. So it was weird because Doug Simonik, the manager, had been complaining or I guess disappointed that they haven't been coming up with more offense or more early offense. Well, this game they had a grand slam in the first inning, put up 11 runs, and then their pitching, which had been keeping them in a lot of the games, fell flat that day. So it's just a matter, I think they got to get all this stuff lined up, the pitching, the hitting, and all that stuff. If they can get it in order, that's what they need to do to put together a run here.
How about number 34? Nick Jackson had slumped, the reigning MVP. Through the first, I'd say, 3 or 4 weeks of the season, was the American Association Player of the Week last week. Seems he's finally got his groove now a month into the year.
I mean, talking to Doug Simonik all year, he was never concerned. I mean, early on, his batting average wasn't great, but I remember games where he hit the ball hard. And Newman Outdoor Field to right field. Right field was closed off until this last weekend. I mean, it seemed the wind was always blowing. If it was going to go, it was going to go to left field. And, he hit some hard balls into that teeth of that wind a couple times, and, they just get knocked down. And I just think Doug doesn't worry about Nick. Nick's a professional. Nick's defense is good enough where if his offense isn't going, he still has value. So I think he'll be fine. And I don't know if he'll put up the same numbers he did last year, but he'll find his way close to 300 and he'll hit some home runs and drive in some runs. And I still think he leads the team in RBIs, who is right there. I think Tim Alberts may have passed him with that grand slam, but he's right up there among the team leaders in RBIs right now.
You get a chance to go to most every home game. The weather has been so iffy so far this season. In terms of it's been cloudy most home games. Sun's peaked out a few times. The crowd. What would you evaluate the crowd so far this year, considering so many games have had either rain or been overcast throughout the home schedule?
It's kind of been disjointed. I'm sure that it's suffered a little bit, just the fact if it's raining, you're not going to get the walk-ups you get.
Yeah.
If it's a nice day, they have their season ticket base and they have, the pre-sold tickets, but I'm sure, they rely on walk-ups to kind of bolster that crowd. And if you're going to get into the 4,000, 4,500 range, the walk-ups are what get you there. So. And it's just early season. Drawing crowds is hard, especially if you're playing. Yeah, now school's out, the weather's getting better, and normally end of June into July and August is when they're, as far as the crowd-wise, they really start hitting their stride and start filling that place up.
I appreciate you letting me fill in. I didn't even mention the Mets once at all during this whole blog.
Well,
until just now.
You just kind of did. Is that Mets orange we have on
it
right
is.
now?
Think about that.
Well, if the Mets have any pitching that they surplus, maybe they can send it to the RedHawks and help them out.
They need it in the big leagues. I don't know if they can send it down to the American Association. Well, for Eric Peterson, I'm Dom Izzo. That's the latest edition of FM RedHawks Weekly.